Hi, my name is Will Nunziata, and I'm a New York City-based director and creator of theater, television, and film, and I'm also a proud FENIX Global Artist Ambassador. Today, I am thrilled to be speaking with, well, my best friend. She is an acclaimed representative for artists in New York City, Los Angeles, and Boston. She is a renowned actress and singer, and she is putting the final edits on her debut novel. Her name, Danielle Naugler. For more on Danielle, you can read more about her right below this video. But in the meantime, here is my interview with my BFF, Danielle. Well, hello, Danielle. How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you, Will?
I'm good, thank you. Well, this is interesting for us to be speaking in a somewhat professional setting, granted that we speak practically daily, twice a day.
Yeah.
I'm so excited that you're speaking with me today because I love when we talk, it's about you. And Danielle, you've traversed and continue to traverse in so many different disciplines within the arts, and I kind of want to hit one by one. But first and foremost, I know the answer to this, but I want the audience to know where you grew up and when you knew that you wanted to be a part of the arts.
I grew up in Newton, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. And I asked my parents if I could be on TV when I was around 3 or 4. I'd started talking at 6 months old, so I had all the language needed to ask them. And they got me into child modeling and dance lessons. And then I had curly blonde hair that gave off the Shirley Temple vibe. So I had a dance teacher who sort of elevated me to little opening number status very, very early on in my life. So I've been in the circus for a long time.
Well, I love it. And the audience just got a little sneak peek of you as a little girl because I will be playing that a few photos of you as little Shirley Temple Danielle. But so Danielle, I want to fast forward because you were a professional actor, singer since you were a kid, but then it was shortly after you graduated from Boston College with a double major in theater and
Human development.
in human development. You've always had a business savvy to you. So immediately following Boston College, you became a representative for a major artist rep firm in New York City, Boston, and Los Angeles. And those are also the 3 locations in which you represent artists. And I want to know, you're still there, but also for so many years, you were juggling being an artist rep and also for many years being a professional singer and actor. How were you able to juggle that for so many years?
I'll say, I think I benefited from getting out into the world at just the right moment when technology started to assist people being able to do multiple things. So I would be at an open call in New York City with my laptop with me and just taking bookings for the artists that I represent, like booking a job in LA, booking a job in Boston, but preparing to go in and sing a 16-bar cut for an audition for Drowsy Chaperone. So it was the kind of thing where I was able to truly do it all there for a while because of just how much technology assisted in that process. I went mobile in 2008 with my office, and that really enabled me to do a lot of things.
Well, I remember that time because frankly, you were doing the mobile office thing before it became hip. And, and I think about an app like FENIX that is not only going to allow artists to use technology to connect with one another, not only fans, but also fellow artists. And I think of you not only as, a singer and an actor, but mainly also starting to really attack, which I have thought for many years is your real bliss, which is your writing. You're one of the most spectacular writers of drama and comedy and all the sensibilities that I've ever met. And yes, I am biased, but I'm also critical. And you are currently putting the final edits on your debut album, What's Meant for You Won't Pass You. And I think about, because I know a little bit about the storyline, I want you to dive into not only a little bit about the storyline, but a little bit about your next steps with that book and further ideas of writing.
Yeah. Well, I think that's also been assisted by technology. I took an online class to get information on how to edit through Grub Street, which is actually based in Boston. The story that I wrote is about a family who's going through the epidemic of the opioid crisis in 2010, a firefighter who gets injured on the job and becomes dependent on Percocets, and then has sort of to like leave the force and the family and how they rally around it, and how this is a situation that could affect people anywhere in any status of life, in any class. And I think there's so much information. I mean, I have family history of, you know, complications of life sort of coming their way and making throwing its demons at people. But I also was able to learn so much through connecting online and through social media platforms and learning about other people's voices and stories, because there's so much content out here and so many people that are out here like sharing their voices, sharing their stories, and making those accessible to people across the country and across the world, which I think is like the FENIX thing is unbelievable. The fact that you can connect with people all across the world in all of these mediums.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think about the story and your story and how you've been able to so beautifully combine it within this novel. You know, I know your family very well. They're family to me. You know, you have such a big family and everyone is always rallying around one another, always picking up where the other one leaves off. You have a beautiful your family has a beautiful way of passing the baton and being there to lift up when members need to be lifted up. So when I think about that, Danielle, and the transcendent universal language of that people are going to be able to relate to, not only here in the United States, but around the world, and through FENIX being able to connect with those people around the world, but also an opioid crisis. I mean, this is a crisis that's been around for a while, but also a crisis in so many different levels, is affecting not only kids and, you know, young adults in the United States, but around the world. And I think about the transcendent quality of all of that, you know, outside of the United States and when you get your book out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I when you're writing, when you're like telling a story that comes to you and you just like feel like, okay, these are the people whose lives I have to walk with right now. This is who I have to write through. I'm writing in the perspective of a male, actually, which is like not the most original thing in the world for a woman to write a male voice, but it is different. And people have asked me, oh, do you want it to be a girl voice? Like, you know, people have asked me different questions about sort of why. And I just feel like this voice is the voice that someone's going to hear at some other point in the world that they need to hear in that moment. And I can't predict when that moment will happen. I can't predict who picks up the book and connects with it, but I just feel like there's a possibility that someone's going to need to hear this specific story and that they will see themselves in it, even if they are in another place in the country, even if they are experiencing a different version of the life experience that the characters are feeling. There's just something universal about family and trauma and, you know, sort of the journey that people go on, and that's universally connectable now through all of the mediums that are available to us.
Well, and also speaking about the universal, you know, things that we're going through right now coming out of this COVID-19 crisis, you know, there are a lot of issues that have been I think, put to the wayside for many years that you're also on the forefront of. And I want to really talk about that because, again, it's another hat that you wear within the arts world. You're on the board of the renowned regional theater, New Rep, the New Repertory Theatre, but more specifically, you're co-chair of its Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, Accessibility, and Accountability Committee. And for as long as I've known you, you've always been able to so beautifully use your gift of writing and communication and storytelling to give voice and give platform to those that unfortunately in our world today don't get that first shot at top of platform. So I really want you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so New Rep came out strong pre-pandemic, before George Floyd's death, in an effort to be anti-racist, an effort to really be inclusive and equitable and forward-thinking. And it responded proactively when there was social media content out there, Dear White American Theater, we see you. It was the kind of thing where we were ready to be willing to make strides and take actions and be a voice and lift up voices that weren't heard, that had been marginalized, because we're a theater that speaks powerfully to the vital ideas of our time. And obviously, amid the pandemic, amid the isolation, there was so much unrest and this like sort of reckoning, racial reckoning that was happening in the country. And we were ready to be a platform for that, to really lift up people's voices, give an opportunity for people to get into conversations and dialogues about what we needed to change and how we could empower and how we could onboard just more voices, put more people at the table. And I mean, this is the other thing about this multimedia world that we're living in right now. The table became these Zoom forums, and we were able to bring in people from all across the country to have these conversations and talk about what we needed to change and where we wanted to go and how we could sort of, just bring more voices into the forefront of the conversation.
Well, look at from that for that young woman who graduated college, who was having a mobile office in 2008 before it was hip, and but
Or
also
necessity.
what?
Or necessity due to the pandemic.
Right. Well, that's the thing with you, Danielle. You've always kind of been a groundbreaker, and you continue to be. And I think you're an inspiration to especially young girls out there. And I can't wait for, young girls and young people of all ages to look at your ability to make it work, for you to juggle not just one hat and to have, yourself be put into one box, but that you have just unapologetically traversed all of your loves within the arts. And I think that's a beautiful thing that, is admirable.
Thank you.
Well, I'm happy for this Zoom chat, and I will call you in 5 minutes to see if I did okay.
Sounds great. Talk to you in a sec.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
In the digital age, artists and bands struggle to make a living. In fact, only a small number of artists can live off their craft. For the 98% of artists that don't have the luxury of being signed to a label, it's tough. But artists deserve to live off their art. Wherever you are around the world, appreciation of music does not change. FENIX brings bands and their fans together, whilst allowing bands to properly monetize their passion. The FENIX app will directly connect bands and fans with no need for middlemen. We're utilizing the blockchain to give the power back to the artist once and for all. Join FENIX, join the change.